Cocktail Mode, the podcast where normally Andy and myself, Dave, talk about a retro game and try to pair it in some way to a cocktail. Thankfully, Andy's not here this week, so it's just me talking for 3 hours about bad April Fool's jokes. I'll cover naked volleyball, naked Tomb Raider ripoffs, Street Fighter 2 missing secret characters that never really existed, and then I'll probably circle back round to a cocktail that Andy would hate.
In general fashion, because I'm not here, David's done spoilers for the entire episode.
Oh, by the way, spoilers.
What are we going to do anything like our own April Fool's joke, or are we just going to...
Yeah, I was going to say about that. Do you want to do something, quote unquote, funny or not?
Well, this is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the thing.
Because it depends on where this discussion goes. Because if the entire discussion is about how shit April Fool's jokes are, then doing an April Fool joke at the start of the episode isn't really going to fit with the whole shtick.
No. Yeah, so that's the thing, isn't it? I don't hate April Fools like a lot of people.
I don't hate it, but from what I've read recently, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
A lot of people are sick to death of the way April Fool is handled in basically the web.
The internet.
Yeah.
Well, I think the internet has kind of ruined April Fool's Day, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's the problem.
I mean, all of the best April Fool's jokes, in inverted commas, that I can remember are from pre-internet days. Or certainly at least early internet days, if not pre-internet days.
Yeah.
And I mean, there might be a bit of a fact that I was young and naive at that time, as well as the fact that basically the internet is systematically destroying fun. That's what it's doing. It's systematically it's sucking the joy out of life. Just by not letting you enjoy stuff. We've been to the pub before. I do this with you. I do this with a lot of people where I just refuse to look something up.
Yeah.
Let's just have a fucking conversation about it. Because it's so easy to just go, oh, I'll Google that.
Yeah.
And it's you know, I need and love. And this podcast is out on the internet. Do you know what I mean? We wouldn't be here doing this. It'd be pretty hard to have a podcast without one. But Jesus Christ, it doesn't suck the fun out of things.
Yeah.
And one of those things is April Fools. Do you agree?
I do. I think the big companies and the larger media outlets are the worst culprits for it.
Yes.
Because they'll put it out and the audience for that product or channel or whatever it is will see it and then spread it.
Yeah.
So you don't even need to follow, I don't know, the Samsung website. You will eventually hear about their hilarious April Fool's joke from this year. PC Gamer used to do a good thing where they'd round up all the game industry ones.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to go to all the individual websites to see how shit they were. You could just read them and go, oh, that's a bit funny. That's crap. And I think more often than not, that's my experience of April Fool's jokes is secondhand like that.
Yeah.
I don't go looking for them. I don't care about them. I'm not going to spend half of the day or a couple of days trolling every site on the internet in the hopes of a hilarious April Fool joke.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of, it's an interesting thing. I listened to a podcast earlier today called Triple Click. I didn't like it very much. Sorry, Triple Click. You're much more polished and you're very professional, but three Americans talking in a way that they had a weird way of talking where it sounded like everything they were saying they found hilarious. So everything had an upward inflection because this is really funny. And it was just really fucking annoying. And they just spent the whole time bitching about how not funny April Fool's is.
Yeah.
But dedicating a 90-minute podcast to it. Again, sorry, Triple Click. But
we could start a feud.
Yeah. So I don't really want to go down that route. I think, to me, it may have peaked in 1992.
Is it Street Fighter 2?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just think perhaps that's quite a long time ago now. So nowadays it's not really jokes. They're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes, are they? They're kind of things are done in a fun way. Like Google do really cool stuff with Google Maps quite often on April Fool's Day.
The Pac-Man thing. I remember playing that a few years ago. I loved that. I thought, just have that as a thing.
Yeah, just leave it. Don't take it down ever.
That's fantastic.
And it's like, it's not, it's not trying to pull the wool over anybody's eyes. It's just a cool thing to do that wouldn't normally have been done. And I think there have been some funny ones in the olden days, and there have been some newer funny ones as well. But I think generally speaking, Shenlong might have been peak April Fools. I have read about some brilliant ones today. As I say, annoyingly, having just been slagging off the internet, now it's ruined April Fools, spent a good few hours today on the internet researching April Fools. I have a list of 7 that I consider the top classic April Fools gags that don't include Shenlong, because I think that's the best one. So,
are these all gaming related, or are these just general?
No, all gaming related and all classic, proper classics. What's the newest one? So I think the newest one, I haven't got any sort of timeline. Probably, and I don't know if this is real. Mm-hmm. It's actually not an April Fool's joke. I read today that Square and Enix announced that they were becoming one company on April Fool's Day, and lots of people thought it was an April Fool's joke.
Yeah.
Is this true? You're nodding like you knew this as well.
It is true. There have been over the decades that April Fool's jokes have been a thing, where things have been announced on April the 1st that people have just thought, yeah, great one, hilarious,
well done,
love it, yeah, that's brilliant, and that is one of them. It just so happened that it came out on April the 1st. My favourite one that I found out today is that in 1973, VAT was announced for the first time ever on April Fool's Day, because it's the financial year, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was...
VAT was invented on April Fool's Day, and they're still taking the piss out of us now.
I was about to say, I think that's probably why the Square Enix thing was announced on the 1st of April, because it's like new business year with joint venture.
Yeah.
Just great. Love it.
Brilliant.
I remember Squaresoft existing because Bushido did Squaresoft, didn't it? But yeah, I don't know who Enix were.
Enix were very similar. They did JRPGs and things. They did.
Oh, did they?
The Star Ocean games.
Oh, okay, cool. I don't know if you remember, but before the Saturn, they were talking about doing a Sega Neptune. It was a real thing.
I've read up about this today. I'd never heard of it.
Had you not?
This joke had passed me by for 20 years.
But I think the Neptune was real, as I understood it.
Yeah, it was planned, and it just, there may be one prototype somewhere in the world.
Yeah, that was I think the idea of the Neptune was it was a console that basically was a Mega Drive but combined with the 32X, I think, possibly the 32X and the Mega CD.
The only problem with it is it was pitched to come out when the Saturn was launching.
Yeah.
Who was buying this thing? I mean, it just goes to show what Sega's hardware division were smoking in those days.
Yeah, we may have mentioned this before in a very early episode that might be quite hard to listen to, because I listened to the beginning of one the other day and it sounds awful. We've come a long way, Dave. We've come a long way. But yeah, we've said fuck knows what Sega's hardware division were up to. The fact they came up with something as brilliant as the Dreamcast is mind-boggling, but the fact that they killed it after 2 years, not so much. But yes, the Neptune was this device, and Dave's right. I think there's rumoured to be 2, one of which is confirmed to be working.
Oh, okay.
And then probably EGM, because EGM seem to have come up with all these gags. Between EGM and CVG, you've not only covered about 2/3 of the alphabet, but you've also covered about 2/3 of the best April Fool's gags ever made.
But you got to think as well, CVG, EGM, Edge, a lot of the big sort of multi-format magazines had the same writers.
Yeah. So
a lot of the guys were freelance writers who just submitted articles to whichever magazine would take it.
Somebody put the gag out that there was a warehouse full of Sega Neptunes that had unearthed, and they were flogging them off for $50 each.
Yeah.
And you had to it was early days, because there was a website that you could log on to that just
SegaNeptune.com. It's not there anymore.
Oh man.
I thought I'll have a look. I'll see if it's still there. It's not even a placeholder. You just get nothing.
Can you buy it?
No, because normally if it's something you can buy, it comes up, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean Sega probably own it, didn't they?
I would have thought so.
They probably bought it, but yeah. So that was the thing. So you I think you could sign up, and if you once you clicked sort of add to basket, it went ha 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 April Fools. But yeah, I quite liked that one. I mean, had a bit of creativity behind it because it was a real thing, and it was being reported that this thing was going to come out, and then it was knocked on the head. And had it not been around April Fools, if that story broke at any other point that it had been discovered that there was a warehouse full of these things, flogging them off for 50 quid, probably not so much, but you could imagine that they'd got, because again, Sega were a bit of a shit show. You could imagine that they had a warehouse full of these things that they just went, do you know what, fuck it.
Yeah, I always say whenever something like comes out as being like amazingly rare, things like Magic the Gathering first edition boxes of cards. But one individual card could be worth thousands. And I guarantee somewhere there is a warehouse with a pallet of them.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And if anything you can think of that's rare, hard to find, really, really valuable, somebody somewhere has got a stack of them and is completely oblivious to what they were.
That's true, yeah. There's an interesting thing with Atari Lynx games, whereas you can go on eBay right now and look for an Atari Lynx game, something like California Games, something they made brand new in the cellophane, still in the box as factory new, and not pay very much money for it because everyone knows there's loads of them. And the anomaly is there's a Ninja Gaiden 3 Ancient Ship of Doom, it's called, bizarrely, the name. But there are just as many of these still out there in the box and the cellophane and that, but they sell for 70-80 quid because people love Ninja Gaiden that much. Absolutely insane.
We said before though, a heat shrink machine doesn't cost very much. So brand new, sealed in the box.
Yeah, I think in a lot of cases that's questionable. In the case of the Atari Lynx, when you're not paying any extra for it, you would pay 12 quid for one sealed in the box, but a tenner for one out of the box. Those are numbers I've made up, but yeah, the difference is minimal because everyone knows that Atari Lynx games didn't sell very well for some reason because it is the best handheld console ever made. There's that flag flown early in this episode.
The season 2 theme, Atari Lynx.
It is, yeah.
I love the Atari Lynx.
I spent far too long talking about Game Boy stuff in season 1, so I've got to give the Atari Lynx its time. It's time to shine. It sounds like we've been looking at a lot of the same things. Were there any that particularly tickled your fancy?
My favourite April Fool joke is not game related, but it is my favourite April Fool joke of all time. It's older than I am. It's from 1957.
Oh wow!
When Panorama,
yes,
big BBC hard hitting documentaries about real proper subjects.
Yes, it's all got a bit tabloid these days.
Yeah, but it used to be like proper journalism, proper uncovering stories that needed to be told that nobody else would cover. In 1957 they did a piece on spaghetti trees.
I thought you might say that.
And apparently my dad, who would have been only probably about 10 or 11 at the time, fell for this, properly. For years, still believed it. Because he'd never heard that it was an April Fool. He heard the joke, but never heard the punchline. So that sort of comes... Every time I see that always makes me chuckle, just from the idea that you could be unaware that something is an April Fool for years.
But yeah...
But as long as you don't go around telling everybody about it, it's probably okay.
No, that's fine, yeah. Just live in blissful ignorance.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But no, I love that one. That's always made me laugh. There have been some great ones in War Thunder, game which I think I've mentioned once before for its horrendous DLC microtransaction
That's right. Yeah,
bullshit.
No, you have mentioned that, yeah.
They do an event every year on April Fool, and some of them have been brilliant.
Yeah.
But they'll do things like have a giant kaiju snail in the middle of a level that shoots laser beams at you.
That is quite cool.
They really go hard for it. But they're good. What they do with it is good. World of Warcraft created the Pandaren race, which which was a race of pandas one
Yes.
year as an April Fool, which then became a proper expansion years later because everybody loved it.
Yeah, I think that's something that's happened a few times. I don't have any other examples. I heard about Pandarans earlier today, but there's been a few modern examples where April Fool's jokes have come out and people have like loved the idea so much that they've just made it a reality, which is pretty cool, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's you can spend billions of dollars researching and focus groups and all that sort of shit to test whatever you're going to do.
Yeah.
Realistically, put something out there, see what the reaction is. There's a much better way of doing something.
Yeah, I mean, quite. I don't know if you heard about this, but very recently, I've forgotten which company it is. Potentially Konami, maybe Sega, put out some really like complete trash AI generated, very quick like teasers for games that don't exist, just to see what the reaction is. So basically, they've gone into and they'll do me a poster for, I don't know, Shinobi 70 or whatever they're up to now, and it does it, and then they throw it out onto their Twitter channel and just see what the reaction is. And they've got a lot of shit for it, but you can see where the idea comes from.
Well, it's instant. It's instant feedback, isn't it? It's instant market research without having to pay some gobshite survey company to come up with some bollocks conclusion from the 1,000 people that they bother to ask.
Of which only 10 actually reply.
Yeah.
Similarly, there was a trailer, again, not quite our retro. I can't remember when it happened, but IGN had made a fake trailer for a Legend of Zelda film.
In 2008, I think this was.
Okay, I'll believe you. That sounds about right.
Trouble is, there is an actual live action of Legend of Zelda film being made now.
Of course there is, because people love money.
People love money and don't give a shit about the quality of the product.
Absolutely.
Have you seen the trailer for the Minecraft movie?
And I think I may have skipped over it quite recently.
It's the kind of trailer that makes me wish I didn't have the internet.
I thought you were going to say, make you wish you didn't have eyes.
Eyes, yeah. Eyes. I wish I was blind and deaf so I don't have to experience this in any way.
Apologies to anyone blind listening to us.
Yeah, it's good. I thought you were going to say anybody deaf listening to us.
No.
Sort of thing you'd say. Yes, Zelda 2008 fake trailer for a fake film which that never came out.
One of the looks awful now. Apparently at the time, and I don't mind using my catchphrase apparently in this context, people loved it. And I guess 2008 CGI wasn't quite as advanced as it was now. But I guess I don't love Zelda, so I didn't even see it, let alone get taken in by it. But people apparently still a little bit pissed about it to this day.
That's when you know your jokes really had an effect.
Yeah,
you're still getting hate for it.
Yeah, really, it's like kicked the fan base in the balls on that one. But it's kind of a love-hate. It's like whoever the production company was that made it for them must be like, oh, that was cool. We knocked that out in like a morning. The intern did that.
Yeah.
and people are still talking about it like we are. Didn't make my list because, again, I don't really like Zelda, so I didn't really have any investment in it. Yeah, just any others that you found? Or saw or remember?
I'm not sure I can remember many. There was definitely one in CVG in possibly about 90, 91. And I haven't managed to find it, but it's lodged in my memory somewhere. There was an April Fool where Sega were going to release games on lollipops or something.
Right. And
it's just a piece of wood with Sega written on it. And I can't, like I said, I haven't found the original story, but I remember thinking at the time, it's a bit weird. All right, whatever. But that's the thing, when you're younger and you see an April Fool and it's sort of half related to something you may or may not have an interest in.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
No.
You could print any bullshit and I wouldn't care.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There must have been so many that we sort of saw and forgotten about because it's something that. You just flick past and don't even remember. But somewhere in our brain, we probably think something that's completely made up is real.
Like spaghetti trees.
Danger UXB, an old sort of Spectrum Commodore 64 game called Danger UXB.
I remember that. UXB being short for unexploded bomb.
Yes, that's right. And an advert featuring a hot girl for some unknown reason, other than it being the 80s/90s.
Yep.
But that could be an April Fool's joke, that whole thing, because I've never played it, I've never seen it, and so that's a sort of thing. I'd flicked through that and went, oh, she's quite hot, and then kept moving.
Yeah.
And I think that must have happened at some point with April Fool's joke that I just didn't care about. I don't know how to sort of put this in a way that doesn't sound really dark and miserable, and I think it's a point that's been made a million times before as well. But the world's so fucking crazy right now that it feels like April Fool's almost every day. Every day when I read, oh, Donald Trump's going to buy Greenland, you just say, haha, April, oh wait, the fuck, it's March. It's just a bit, the world's a bit bonkers.
There's no difference between the joke news websites like The Onion or Daily Mash, anything like that, and the BBC or any other news outlet. Just look at it and think, well, that may or may not be true. Yeah. So I'm not even going to let it enter my mind.
Let it wash over me.
Yeah.
I saw today, because I did that thing your brain does, so I was on the internet looking up April Fool's gags and all that, and just happened to sort of swipe on my phone and get to my news feed. And I saw a story that says Juno First is going to be re-released, which is a game that I found on my A to Z of MAME hidden gems. Mm-hmm. And because my brain was in April Fool's mode, I read it and thought, that's an April Fool's joke, because nobody fucking knows or cares about this game.
I'll tell you what, I did find a trailer for a new game that's coming. Well, not necessarily a trailer, I think it's just a Steam page. Yeah. There's a remake of iRobot coming out, which is a really bad arcade game from like the very early 80s. It's not good, mate.
It is excellent. I love it.
It's not.
That is also on my list of main hidden gems, and not just because there weren't many games beginning with I. But I really like it. I'm quite excited by the remake. Yeah, I think it's a great little puzzle game. It's basically, I know you love Sentinel. It's basically Sentinel in puzzle game form. Yeah. Is what it is. But and it's one of the, if not the earliest 3D arcade game, but it's very basic. It's incredibly simple. But no, I like it a lot.
We started on Street Fighter 2, but never actually said what it was.
I think I've glossed over it. There was I think there have been a few Street Fighter 2s over the time, but the most famous one, I mean, imagine if you're listening to this, you've probably heard of it before, but I'm not actually completely au fait with the details, so I might shut up and let you tell it, because you probably are.
Oh, okay.
It's not often I shut up. It's taken Dave completely by surprise.
April Fool. I'm going to keep talking. In EGM in 1992 for April 1st, they put forward that there was a secret character in Street Fighter 2. So everybody knows that when you when you lose to Ryu, yes, he says you must defeat Sheng Long to stand a chance. Yes. The idea being that Sheng Long might be his master or another character. It's actually a mistranslation from the Japanese, which was something along the lines of, you must defeat my Sheng Long Dragon Punch to stand a chance.
I think it's Shoryuken.
Yeah, it's a bit lost in translation and lost in time, I think. But EGM printed this quite well-doctored screenshot that showed this guy who basically looks like an old grey-haired version of Ken with a long ponytail doing a dragon punch on what looks like Bison's stage. And you can tell looking at it now, you can tell it's fake. But back then, everybody would have eaten this up and gone nuts for it.
Yeah. I mean, on the off chance you're listening to this and you're not as old as me and Dave, because I'm fairly sure most of our audience are. But if you're not, then you probably won't remember an age when Photoshop wasn't on everybody's PC.
It just didn't exist.
No, it was.
I don't think it actually existed at the time.
Even the verb to Photoshop didn't exist. It was completely the idea that someone could. What is it? Because it wasn't even. This was in the era when special effects weren't called special effects. Special effects were called trick photography. Yeah. This is the age that we were living in. And so, anything like that would have, that must have been quite difficult to do.
There was this fake character who never existed, who did eventually come out in Street Fighter 4, a character called Guken. Yes. Is what they put forward as being Sheng Long, like 15 years earlier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Goken is Ryu and Ken's sort of sensei character. He's apparently has some characteristics that were talked about in the game, like one-handed fireballs. Apparently, that was something that was touted by EGM, and that's something that is very Goken.
They did it again as well.
Really?
In 97, they did another you can unlock Shenlong as a secret character in Street Fighter 3.
Oh, God. Surely everyone
by that point, and everybody will know the joke by then.
Yeah.
So by that point, they come out with this. I mean, you'd know by the April issue, wouldn't you?
Yes.
But by then, you might think, oh, no, the developers probably saw that joke thing and all the feedback around it and thought, oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, let's put that character in. Nah, complete bollocks. But I love the idea. If you leave it long enough, you can do a follow-up to your own April Fool joke and still
absolutely.
catch people out. Yeah, I thought that was quite funny.
So the thing that I wasn't clear on, what's the word? My rapid research didn't give me time to actually figure out what was it? Was it a code you had to enter to unlock him? Was it one of these? Well, I guess it wouldn't have been a code-based thing, would it? Because it's we're past that era by then.
Yes, well, it's bollocks basically. So
right.
To fight Shenlong, the mysterious Street Fighter legend, you must use Ryu throughout your entire game. You must not get hit from the moment you begin until the final round with M. Bison. Once then, you must spar with M. Bison without hitting each other for 10 rounds. That's not even possible. The 10th round is the final round, and after the last draw game, Shenlong appears and tosses M. Bison away.
If you were a child and fell for that back in 1992, I'm sorry for your loss, which must be days of your life that you're never going to get back trying to achieve that. That's brutal.
The thing is, though, on the bottom of the page in the actual magazine, there is a big section on the EGM April Fool's contest. Which says, since we all had so much fun last year with the Simon Belmont April Fool's trick, this year we're making a contest out of it. Somewhere in the magazine, there is an April Fool's joke.
Oh, God. That's incredible.
It could be a bogus next wave or even a whole fact file, but around a fictitious game. All you have to do is tell us what it is.
Oh, fair play to him.
Love it.
That's brilliant.
That's funny.
Do you know the Simon Belmont one? Not on my list, but I did read about it today.
I do. This is there was apparently a code to unlock Simon Belmont in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game on the SNES, I think it was.
Yeah, it was definitely a Nintendo console, yeah.
Fans of Castlevania knew it was a joke instantly because they didn't print a picture of Simon Belmont. They printed a picture of somebody else.
Oh, cool.
Trevor, I think his name was, or something. So a
yes, there
character.
Is a Trevor. Yeah, there is a Trevor in the game. Yeah.
Fans knew it wasn't quite right straight away. Everybody else just sort of went, nah, don't care. Again, this is the era when I would have been reading these magazines. I just wouldn't have known or cared. It just passes you by. If you don't know the game,
no,
you don't. You're not in on the joke, are you, at all?
Well, of course not. No, I could tell you there's a giant turtle boss in Res, and you wouldn't know, would you? Because you've not played Res. Like a fucking idiot. I mean, to be fair, at the time, the Turtles arcade game was big. And now I love the Castlevania games, but at the time, wouldn't have even known what they were. Didn't know Simon Belmont. I'd be like, that's a stupid fucking name for an arcade, for a game character.
Simon? Who wants to be called Simon?
You want to be called Joe Blade. Rick Dangerous.
Oh, Rick Dangerous. There's a game. There's a few games, actually.
Yeah, do you know what? I've never played them. It's just such a great name. There's another Street Fighter related April Fool's joke. Again, this isn't on my list, but this is my one, probably the only one I actually remember.
Oh, okay.
Of all these I've read up recently, or I've heard about since, but the one I remember is that there was, and I may have mentioned it in the Street Fighter episode. Street Fighter is out on the Game Boy, the original Game Boy. They did make one, and it's an absolute clusterfuck of a thing. But the idea that Street Fighter was coming to the Game Boy was so ridiculous back in the day that there was an April Fool's gag around it. I don't know the magazine, most likely CVG. And they said that not only was Street Fighter coming to the Game Boy, but there was going to be a special add-on that had extra buttons
Oh,
on
yeah, I
it.
remember you saying about that.
Yeah. So this is the thing, and I've never found any other reference to this anywhere, and I still can't find a picture of it.
Mm.
And when I was reading up around other stories, looking around message boards and all sorts for people's favourite April Fool's jokes from back in the day, somebody mentioned it. And it's the only other reference I've ever seen to it. And quite funnily, I'm sorry I didn't make a note of your name, but this board had been long dead, like over a decade.
Yeah.
And he said, because I remember it looking quite convincing, but he said they made it out of pen tops and then rolled it in glitter. So, so I don't know who's right, but it's just nice that I didn't dream it. Finally got confirmation that this thing actually, this didn't exist, obviously, but this gag existed.
Mm.
But again, I just think to this day, I'm convinced that's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it's something you could do on a Game Boy using the link cable to convince this other controller that it's part of your. And I think maybe that's the key to a good gag, isn't it? To make it just believable enough.
Yeah.
That even if for a few seconds people go, oh fuck me, it's April 1st.
Yes.
that's a successful April Fool's joke. It should last approximately 7.5 seconds.
The one I saw that was exactly that, I think it might be from last year, possibly the year before. Somebody, I think it was IGN, made a trailer for basically the Virtual Boy 2. So it was an apparatus where you basically strapped your Switch to your head and had it in front of your eyes, and then it obviously, it starts to go nuts quite quickly, so you don't get too excited. It's got what do they call it? Augmented reality overlay over the real world. So this woman's actually driving her car, but playing Mario Kart at the same time. So she's swerving to avoid things that aren't there, and it's obviously stupid and over the top, but quite funny. The best bit of it is she's playing Luigi's Mansion. I don't know if you've ever seen Luigi's Mansion.
I own Luigi's Mansion 3. I've never actually played it.
It's basically like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
His main tool/weapon is a big vacuum cleaner strapped to his back.
It's a Hoover, yeah.
Yeah. She's in the middle of her living room, just hoovering while playing Luigi's Mansion. I thought that was quite funny.
That sounds quite a lot like there was a Assassin's Creed VR April Fool's joke.
VR modes have been a joke in recent games, and then they've done it. I don't know if you've ever heard of House Flipper.
Yeah.
House Flipper announced their VR mode on April the Fool's Day. Got to say it properly, haven't we? Again, everybody thinks, oh, brilliant joke, fantastic. Wouldn't it be great if they actually made it? Yeah. And then the joke is, no, we have actually made it. Here you go, free update, VR mode.
There was a virtual reality Assassin's Creed April Fool's trailer that I don't think was made by Ubisoft. I think it was made by somebody else.
IGN, I think.
Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
Genuinely funny. And one of the few I can remember that is genuinely funny. Because it starts off being quite, again, this whole thing of it's believable and then it's not. And that's just, and it is look it up, go and watch it. It's very, very funny.
Yeah.
Also, that VR Switch thing you were talking about, I'm pretty sure that this is one of those things that became a reality. I think there is, do you know of, again, because this is a bit outside your wheelhouse, the Labo kits for the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, was that like a cardboard thing that you slotted it into? Yeah, I remember that.
I think there was a VR one of those.
Yeah, probably.
Because there was one that was basically a piano, and there was all sorts of crazy shit. And the creativity around that is incredible. But it's one of those things you think about. And right now I'm thinking, did that exist? Did I dream that? It's just such a bizarre idea.
Yeah, because there were sort of homemade. There was the Google Cardboard thing, wasn't it, where you put your phone into it.
Yeah.
So it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
No, absolutely not. And yeah, there was a VR one. So way back in 1988, this is on my list. Your Sinclair not only invented a game that has since, a long time later, come to exist, but an entire genre they invented that has since come to exist. And the VR conversations remind me of it. But in 1988, Your Sinclair magazine announced via a review that scored, I think, 90 ish, 94, 95%, massive score. Advanced Lawnmower Simulator.
Oh, I did see this. Yeah.
This is one I remember from back in the day, but like as this conversation has gone, I've always assumed that Lawnmower Simulator was just a shit game. I didn't realise it was an April Fool's joke. And so that completely ties into what you were saying about when you don't care, you don't care. I'd seen it and I knew it existed and I just assumed it was a crap game. And with part of the gag is that Codemasters used to staple the word simulator to the back of every game that they fucking released. There were like ATV simulator. Everything was simulator.
Jet bike simulator.
Yeah. And so yeah, Advanced Lawnmower Simulator, basically 4 screens of green that you pressed M constantly. Press M to mow. And with the promise that later levels would feature obstacles and that. But on I think it's on level 4 or 5, your lawnmower hits a stone and blows up and you have to start again, no matter what you do. They didn't admit it was an April Fool's joke until 2 years later.
Wow.
1990, they finally...
brilliant. I like that.
Yeah, which is great. But I mean, everybody knew, but they never admitted it for 2 years.
Stick to your joke. I love it.
Absolutely. But this is... Apparently there is now a lawnmower simulator, but Power Wash Simulator, which has been a massive success.
I've played Power Wash Simulator.
I've seen it and gone, no. I don't know. It's like...
One from 2003, which is right up your street. It's the full topless mode for Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. This was EGM's 2003 effort.
Amazing.
Basically, there's a ridiculous set of conditions you've got to meet. Play no volleyball, because it says play no volleyball for all 14 days. Presumably it's like a day-to-day thing. Yeah,
it is kind of like plays out a bit like a dating sim where you're trying to make friends with them. It's never actually dating. You're making friends with them, buying them different cakes and all sort of random, stereotypically a Japanese ick. It is absolutely chock full of it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at BMX XXX, talking about things that should be an April Fool's joke that aren't.
Yeah.
Do you know Valkyrie Wild?
I have recently found out about Valkyrie Wild. I'm so glad it wasn't real.
Yes, I think it was. It's
although
basically,
it wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I think it was the whole thing, wasn't it? And then this whole gag, and again, I think possibly EGM again.
This is actually PSM, PlayStation Magazine.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. So in PSM, Valkyrie Wild, they basically doctored a whole load of Tomb Raider screenshots and presented it as a new game called Valkyrie Wild, who was a...
Oh, no, it's Valkyrie Wild, Full Frontal Assault.
So basically, PSM doctored a whole bunch of Tomb Raider images to be a character called Valkyrie Wild, who went into battle with basically nothing but a holster for a gun, and that was about it, I think. Yeah,
like a belt.
Yeah. And basically completely naked. Obviously, the images in the magazine had like the black bars over them and that sort of shit. But because of Tomb Raider and the nude Raider cheats that didn't exist, which is another April Fool's joke, it's just that whole thing, isn't it?
Are they April Fools? Are the nude Raider thing April Fools, or are they just jokes that the developers played?
Oh, that's a very good question.
I'm not sure they were April Fools. I think they were just joke things that were put into the games.
That's fair, yeah. I think that might be right. There was one of those action replay code things that did, I think, change clothes colour to be skin colour or some shit like that. But anyway, it's all very, very weird and bonkers. And sort of this was the apex of that there was going to be a game release that featured a character who used the fact that she was completely naked to startle her enemies and then get the drop on them, basically.
Which would be fine, but she's fighting skeletons and zombies.
Because it's a screenshot of Tomb Raider.
Thing is, this is effectively what Quiet in Metal Gear Solid 5 looks like.
Do you know what? That when I read about this, because I only read about this earlier today, I must admit I've not heard this one that completely passed me by as well. When I was reading about it, I was like, this is fucking Quiet again. This is absolutely, and it is back again. Things that were ridiculous are now real. Madness. Just looking down my list, all the others are really quite old, and all of them are Amiga related.
Oh, okay. I didn't find any Amiga ones, I don't think.
Did you not?
No.
So I might as well summarise them into one big lump. There was a thing called Blue Tech, which was an add-on for the C64 that turned it into an Amiga.
Okay.
The gag being that basically it was a couple of other peripherals blue-tacked together.
I love it.
Tech.
That's great.
The other fully Amiga one was the Amiga Drive, which was a Mega Drive emulator.
I remember that.
Do you?
I do remember that, yeah. Because
I guess that's all in your wheelhouse, isn't it, from back in the day, yeah.
Yeah, at that time, I had a Mega Drive. My mate Michael, he was massive into his Amigas with extra RAM and, expansion cards and things to make it much better than it was.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, the Mega Drive Amiga crossover was quite exciting.
No, I think that's one of those that I can imagine was very believable at the time because the games were starting to cross over, weren't there? There were games like skid marks that only appeared on the Amiga and the Mega Drive.
Speedball 2.
Yeah.
They're almost indistinguishable. So yeah, that would have been very believable, actually.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. So I can, I can sympathise, especially as it was, a long time ago, pre-internet, pre-everything. I can sympathise with people believing that. It's incredibly believable. If someone told me it existed now, I would say, I can see that, actually. Makes sense. Yeah, and then finally the last one, possibly my favourite. I think this is my favourite, and it's quite obscure as well, other than people who were big C64 people back in the day, in when the C64 was current. So there was a guy, I've not made a note of his first name, his last name was Braybrook, and he was writing like a diary of making a game in Zap 64, which was the big Commodore 64 magazine.
Yep.
One of the probably to this day one of the most popular, and it's one of those magazines where the people who loved it back in the day are still very passionate about what a great magazine it was now. Crash for the Spectrum is very similar. People are very, very enthusiastic about Crash as a magazine. So he was been writing for months and months this diary of making this game about what he was doing, and then he wrote and because it was published sort of in retrospect in the magazine, he was it just completely flew by people, and I fucking loved it. It was the April issue of the magazine, but it was in his diary 12th of February. I've discovered that I can boost the speed of the Commodore 64 to 128 modes with this bit of code, and it was completely in the same tone it had written everything else, without really. It wasn't hyperbolic. It wasn't this is incredible, this is what I've done. It was just in the same tone, and it's really, really cool. And I think it's close on 60 lines of type-in code that you have to bang in. It's become a bit of a thing about what actually happened, because there were mistakes in it, either deliberately or the fact that it was so much code, and proofreading was shit back in the day and everything had mistakes in it. But when people actually got it to work, what actually happened seems to be a little bit apocryphal still. And the general feeling seems to be it did pretty much nothing except make your cursor flash quicker.
I like that.
And then there are other people who say if you then loaded a game, the big thing for it was running Elite on Commodore 128 mode rather than Commodore 64 mode is basically what it did. And there are people who say when you did that, when you tried to load something with it, that's when it said April Fools on screen.
Oh, okay.
But it's just it's so long ago, and it was obviously people were so young and memories are so blurry that it's all a bit and I love that. I love the fact, and say everything about it. I love the fact that it was in the same format as everything else he'd done with this diary, and it was just dropped in there, and it just very, very cool. I say not something I remember at the time, but definitely something that as I've been researching these, definitely my favourite. I think that's brilliant. As somebody who quite often typed in hundreds and hundreds of lines of code into the Spectrum trying to get some shit Space Invader clone to work, I know the pain.
Yeah, glory days. There's another great EGM one who seem to go hard for it every year.
Yeah, they're big on it.
2004, they put together an article which has got some quite good artwork in it, I have to say, of a Lord of the Rings Mario Kart style game. And the image they've got in this article is Gandalf in this sort of weird, almost believable homemade go-kart thing with some fireworks in the back. It just looks brilliant. I wish that somebody had actually made that. You'll like this one.
Go on then.
It's EGM again.
Right.
This entire page might just be EGM ones over the years. In 2008, they did a full-page preview of a Lego version of Halo. So, you get like the Lego versions of like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and all of that.
I mean, again, you can see it happening, can't you?
That would absolutely work. I'm looking at it. I just think, you know what? That's a game I'd play. I'm not a massive fan of Halo, but...
No. I don't know if they still are, but the earlier Lego games had brilliant sense of humour. They were genuinely funny. There's a great one. My favourite was one of the Star Wars trilogy games on the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah.
Because it couldn't do the fancy graphics, so everything still looked like Lego because it was isometric and your character moved like a Lego guy because it really fit in with what the Game Boy Advance was capable of.
Yeah.
And I really loved that. And I don't know if it did it in the other versions. But, haven't had a chance to do this yet. Spoilers for the end of Star Wars from 1977. When it is Luke Skywalker takes Darth Vader's helmet off. In the game, he pulls his whole head off and replaces it with a different head. Absolutely love it. It's so funny. I'm not sure they still do that, but I hope they do because it just. And I think that's because it's very similar. Certainly the first Lego movie was genuinely very funny as well.
Very self-aware, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I just think really, really cool. So yeah, no, and again, I can absolutely see it. I mean, as you said, Lego anything, I'd believe it. Lego Twilight, the house of Bella's boyfriend's family, is an actual Lego thing now.
What?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
April Fools? No, it's real. It's real. For all its faults, and there are myriad faults with Twilight in moral and literary and cinematic terms, it has kick-started a massive genre that just keeps on growing and growing and growing. It's not showing signs of stopping anytime soon. And there's a bit of a positive spin on it. It's a bit of a women's sexual liberation thing going on around the whole genre at the minute, where women are like unashamedly reading books with lots of sex in because it's sex written for women, which has never existed before because it's all for men.
It has. It's been difficult to find.
Yeah, and now it's
presumably
like borderline mainstream, and which is great. That would never have happened had Twilight not existed. This would never have happened. So for all the fact that they're not going to get into it, but yeah, Twilight not good. Repercussions good.
A couple of small little snippets. GameFAQs.com.
Yeah.
The very first and best internet. How the hell do I get through X level in Y game against Z boss?
Yeah.
1 year, doesn't say what year, but they rethemed the entire website so that only games released on the Xbox could be found. So you couldn't find guides to anything other than Xbox games.
I don't know if you realise this, Dave, but there would have been a massive chunk of it. Because I genuinely believe that one of the most vocal fan bases, he uses the word in are PlayStation fans. They are. So, I mean, the PC Valve fan base is just kind of exists, and it only props up when you poke it.
It's like a sleeping bear.
Yeah. Oh, I downloaded this thing off Epic. You did fucking what? The PlayStation owners, the PlayStation fervent people, they're very, very vocal whether you poke them or not. I imagine that was fucking brutal when that happened. It makes me very happy. Love it. That's a great one.
It is good, isn't
really
it?
Good, yeah.
I like that.
Oh, did we ever name drop the guy who mentioned Jumping Flash? Did we ever give him a shout out? The 8-bit boomer. He was the guy who recently mentioned that the Dave cocktail was second whack on Google.
Mm-hmm.
He originally dropped a comment in Jet Set Radio.
Oh, okay.
And we had a little chat about some old platform games. Me and he in the comments. I'm not sure we've given him a shout out before. So the 8-bit boomer, hi. Thanks for your comments. We really appreciate the engagement. Thank you very much, mate. He mentioned some proper classic games in a couple of his posts. His earliest memories of gaming with his brother in the late 80s on an Amstrad CPC.
Yay!
He says CPC 664. Is that a typo or is that a real thing?
No, there was the 464, the 664, and the 6128.
Crikey.
I think the 6 means it had a disk drive.
Ooh.
Rather than a tape.
He talks about being a big fan of Sensible Software, Double Dragon, Gauntlet, all classics.
Good man.
And then got into some RTS, Age of Empires, Command and Conquer.
Oh, top bloke.
Yeah, he does seem like he's very much, we went down a sort of bizarrely, a rabbit hole. He was...
Come to Leicester, we'll go out for a drink.
He was talking about a game called Harvey Wallbanger, and I got confused by a game that I remember called Harvey Headbanger. And
I remember Harvey Headbanger.
Yeah, so that was a weird little thing. But yes, 8-bit boomer. Cheers, mate. Really appreciate you dropping us some messages. Drop us one on this, say hi. And if you live anywhere near Leicester, Dave needs a drinking buddy.
Dave needs an enabler. Actually, I don't. I can drink. I don't need any.
Oh, yeah. I don't need an excuse.
Yeah. There is one thing I want to mention that is kind of tied in with the drinks.
Oh, God.
In a way. What do you mean, oh, God?
Well, because no, I worry still that we've made some terrible mistake with our spelling and we have chosen the same cocktail. But anyway, carry on.
Okay, so I just wanted to mention that Diffords have done April Fools in the past.
Oh, fuck me! Thank you. I didn't think that's what you were going to say.
Yeah, I didn't know where you were going with that.
Okay.
So
I didn't know this.
Diffords have made listings for they list like. Sort of every version of whiskey and vodka and things. They're all kind of listed on there and documented in some way or another. They made for April Fool's Day, I think it's 2018, their own gin. It's called Hamburger Gin. And it's distilled with organic beef. So there's a made-up story, the history of it, and it's quite funny. I won't read it because, go to the website yourself, you lazy bastards. That's quite funny. That's a good read. It does say the very last line is, after numerous test batches, the finished product will be bottled on April the 1st.
Yes.
So there's your clue.
Yes.
And then the other one they did was salt and cider vinegar gin.
Salt and cider.
Yeah.
And crisps.
Yes. It's salt and vinegar.
I was like, I know those words from somewhere.
This looks pretty good. It's got a good story to it. Oh, this is 2018, this one. Basically, it goes on about the William Chase, the creator of Tyrrell's, those crisps, Tyrrell's crisps.
The good crisps.
They also brew and bottle a cider. So the idea is that they've combined the crisps with the cider to make salt and vinegar cider. Sorry, salt and vinegar gin.
I'd try it. Sounds alright.
Yeah, I tell you what, that doesn't sound too far from the truth on a lot of these sorts of things.
I'm sure I've tasted worse.
Yeah, the shit that people put in drinks. But yeah, no, that's it. I just wanted to bring those to your attention. I'd
just like to reiterate, because we haven't mentioned it for a while. I promise, dear casual listener, we are not sponsored by Difford's Cocktails. It is a genuinely brilliant resource if you like cocktails. Genuinely, it's fantastic. They don't pay us anything. We are not promoting them for any reason other than the fact that when you need to search for a cocktail that relates to a video game, it is the easiest way to do it. They're brilliant. So fair play to you, Diffords. Thank you very much.
Well, not only that, but I mean, just generally speaking, if you've got a bottle of some random drink that someone's given you and you think, oh, what the hell can I do with this?
Yeah.
Because it's vile on its own, but there might be a nice cocktail it goes with. Just put it in as an ingredient, see what you can do.
I'm looking at you, peach snaps. Apricot brandy. Jesus Christ.
Apricot brandy.
Apricot brandy. It's grim, but there are some beautiful cocktails made with apricot brandy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is one of those ingredients that's horrible on its own, but delicious in a cocktail, in the right cocktail, I should say.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a nice segue, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, I thought you'd like that.
I like that. I love a segue, and I'm not talking about a scooter. So yeah, go on, crack on. Let's put me out of my pain and hope that you don't mention that you've done the same cocktail as me.
I fucking hope so. We can figure it out. We'll edit it.
Oh, I can. Yeah, fuck it. I mean, to be honest, we don't need to. What a fitting end to the April Fool's episode.
To be fair, yeah, the ultimate April Fool is that we both picked the same fucking drink. So my drink for April the Fool's Day, as it will always be known from now on, thanks to you,
Thank you.
is the April Fool.
Oh, thank God.
Which is a delightful drink that I found on Difford's. It's got a 5-star plus rating from Difford himself. And the discerning drinkers, of which there are 48 people who have rated this drink, have all given it 5 stars. So it's good.
Yeah.
So you start with a martini glass.
Yeah.
Into which you add 90 millilitres of chilled water.
Okay.
And then garnish it with a lemon zest twist. And maybe an olive. That's it. The comments are what make this. There's various things like, oh, I can't believe you did this, blah, 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 lazy joke, whatever. But, the comments you get on proper, well, I hasten to say proper cocktails, because it is a cocktail. It's on Difford's. The comments you get were like, oh, could have done with like half of this or a little bit more of something else. People have genuinely bought into the joke.
Oh, love it.
And just said, oh, this is even better with half an ounce of soda water. Yeah, this is my favourite nightcap, and it tastes particularly good just after you've cleaned your teeth. Things like that. There's just people have bought into the joke and made it even better than it already was. So yes, 0 units of alcohol, 0 calories as well.
Oh, excellent.
I love it. Stir with ice and strain into a chilled glass. The review is, to quote Karen Thick, one of the discerning drinkers on hand when this cocktail was created, you can't beat a glass of water.
Love it. That's amazing. Can I just say, I happen to know that Difford's are really looking to grow the community aspect of their website. That's the sort of thing you need to do, guys. If you happen to be listening, that's the sort of thing. Because if I'd have seen that at the time, I would have been on there going, do you know what? A little spritz of absinthe over the top of this. Just the tiniest little hint.
A dash of grenadine for colour. Like one single drop.
A single drop of grenadine. Don't do 2. 2 is just going to kill it.
Yeah, it's way too much. Or salt the rim. Just all of those little added flourishes that make some cocktails, that tiny bit better.
Yeah.
Pointless. Absolutely fucking pointless. Or garnish it with a sparkler, a lit sparkler.
I've got a real cocktail.
Oh, that's boring.
I know. I'm sorry.
What did you go for?
So we haven't mentioned in this episode, but it's a thing that, I mean, it's real. In France, all the gags in France for April Fool's Day are or were traditionally fish themed. I can't tell you why. I didn't even bother to research that. I imagine April Fool's Day has apparently been around for many hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. So I imagine Poisson Avril or Avril Poisson has been around as long, if not longer.
It's Poisson d'Avril.
Poisson d'Avril. Yeah, so that's a thing. I can see Dave Googling. You're going to tell me why, Dave?
No, you keep going. I have nothing to say yet.
So, Poisson d'Avril it's a real thing. It actually happens. Lots of fish-based gags in France on April 1st. Dave is going to tell us why in a moment, apparently.
No, I'm not.
Are you not?
No, do your own fucking reading.
Is that your ultimate April Fool's joke? Not helping.
Didn't ask me to. I had to tell you how to make your own fucking cocktail for Metal Gear Solid.
The first time I ever knew about Poisson d'Avril was in a film.
Okay.
Do you know what film?
Oh, something French, I'm going to guess.
Not something French.
Oh.
The French something.
The French Connection?
2.
Gene Hackman link.
Oh, absolutely. Fucking rest in peace, Gene Hackman.
Yeah,
You're
definitely.
fantastic, fantastic actor. I tell you what, I'm going to take this moment to eulogise about Gene Hackman and a point that I read in somebody like literally eulogising about Gene Hackman, about how he wasn't bothered about playing likeable characters throughout his whole career. No matter what he did, he was not bothered. He would play the characters that were unlikable, not just villains. Popeye Doyle in The French Connection is not a particularly likeable human being. And he didn't care. He was more interested in interesting and characters that he could get under the skin of. He was a fantastic actor, genuinely brilliant. If you've never seen The Conversation, do nothing else other than watch The Conversation after you finish listening to us today, because it is fantastic, and I think that's his best film and a masterpiece of a film as well. As is the original French Connection.
French Connection 2 is not that bad.
Again, it is, unfortunately, it gets a little bit damned in comparison to the French Connection, but it is a very good film. It's not a masterpiece like the French Connection, but it is a very good film. And yeah, there is a bit early on in the film. So Popeye Doyle, his character in the French Connection and the French Connection 2, is this unconventional, slightly racist, slightly not a good human being character who gets sent to France to investigate I think it's the leader of a drugs ring, isn't it?
Yeah, they're importing heroin, I think.
And he rocks up in France as this character and can't speak a word of French, and is completely sort of ostracised by the French police and that. And at the beginning of the film, he gets sent to investigate a fish market for potentially smuggling drugs inside the fish or inside the fish package, and I can't honestly remember which turns out to be an Poisson d'Avril joke that is getting played on him. And this is the first I ever knew of Poisson d'Avril. And I think traditionally kids pin paper fish to the back of people, and I think that's mentioned as well.
Yeah.
And it's genuinely the first time I've ever known. And again, coming to Difford's, there is a French Connection cocktail. There was a wave of cocktails in the 70s named after films. There's a Godfather and variations on the Godfather as well, and this is kind of in that same family. As per your story, the Difford's community commenting on the recipes and things like that is one of the quite often sort of quite illuminating. Because we'll pick a cocktail on this and they'll go, oh, I didn't have this, so I tried that, and so it's not really the real version. But people do that, and they're a little bit less embarrassed about it than I am when I do it. And I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be, because maybe that's the whole thing. I
don't think you should, and it's one of the things that we've never really sort of discussed properly, is it? The fact that you can take an established recipe and put your own spin on it, it's perfectly accepted.
Absolutely.
Most people have their version of classic cocktails.
Yeah, the original French Connection cocktail was 50-50, a shot of cognac and a shot of amaretto. And it's just sort of various different versions of it. The one thing that is consistent is that it's got to be cognac, not just brandy. There's a version of the Godfather called the Godchild, which is brandy and amaretto. But the French Connection, whether intentional or not, is the fact that it's cognac, French brandy rather than just brandy. And my point about the community is that the first comment chronologically on this cocktail was a chap called Dan Freeland. Dan Freeland's comment 4 years ago is that he likes to mist absinthe over the top of his French Connection cocktail to give it just a little bit of extra hit on the nose. So I tried this. I tried the French Connection in the various forms. I'm with the cocktail. The ratio on Difford's is a 2-to-1, 45 ml of cognac and 22.5 ml of amaretto, or a shot and a half, or 2 shots and 1 shot. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
However you want it, over the rocks in a brandy glass, and it's really, really nice. And this little mist of this is a thing that genuinely happened, right? And I promise you, I thought I had an idea about this cocktail and how I could make it more French Connection 2 than French Connection. And I found a bottle of cleaning product, put it through the dishwasher so it was perfectly clean and I wouldn't get poisoned from it, because it was the only squirty bottle I could find. Put some absinthe in the bottom of it and misted it over the top of my...
When you said cleaning product, I just had flashbacks to Blue Peter saying sticky back plastic.
So basically I did what Dan Freeland suggested, and it was, I liked this cocktail anyway. I like amaretto and I like cognac, and they go beautifully together. But this genuinely, just a little spritz of absinthe over the top, because I'm obsessed with absinthe. It really does make a difference. It makes it just a slightly more complex, slightly more interesting, and slightly more delicious cocktail. And then I realised that made it 2 French ingredients.
Yeah.
So I am going to brand Dan Freeland's improvement of the French Connection cocktail as the French Connection 2. Whether he likes it or not. I doubt you're listening, Dan Freeland, but if you are, thank you very much. I salute you.
Comment on his comment.
I will. Don't you worry. That's absolutely happening. He'll be like, this is 4 fucking years ago. What's wrong with you people? Anyway.
That's the only comment he's ever posted. He's got nothing on his profile on Diffords at all.
Really?
That's the only thing he's ever said.
Oh, I kind of love that.
Yeah. To just come out of the woodwork and just go, this could be better. And then just fade away.
Disappear. I love that. That's made me like it even more. It is, I think, a genuine improvement to what is a properly classic cocktail. It's better if you miss some absinthe over the top of it. I don't care what the original creator says. I don't care what Brian F. Rear's Booze Guide from 1976. I don't care what he's got to say about it either. Oh, that's the original recipe, and that's a 2-to-1 measurement as well. So that's right. He just forgot to miss some absinthe over the top of it. I'm fully backing myself with this. I'm not going to tell you it's tenuous. I'm not going to say anything. I love this connection to the brief, if you like, that we're going to find something to match April Fool's Day. But I realise I've shafted myself out of a cocktail when we eventually do Driver. So so I'm not happy about that. But I'll have to think of something else.
You'll live.
I will. Yeah, I've already done the Screwdriver as well for a different episode. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, it was a very simple cocktail. It's twice as much cognac as amaretto, and squirt some absinthe over the top of it. It's lovely. Go crazy. Have one of those.
In a washed out bottle of unbranded cleaning detergent.
Don't do that if you can help it. You'll notice we haven't done a conversation about what we're doing next. This week, because we already know next week we're going to be doing WrestleFest, arcade only classic that we're doing, so we can tie in with the forthcoming WrestleMania event and the general sort of upswell in interest in the WWE/F. We've got our co-host from the Toker episode, Chris, coming back. He is a bigger wrestling fan than he is a classic Toker fan, so he's going to be a great asset to us on that. I'm really looking forward to having him back again here on Cocktail Mode, where gaming, like alcohol, is in our blood. I challenge you, Dave, to save all these links so we can put them in the description.
Fuck off.
No,
It'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, I know. Come on.
Do your own research. Find it online.
Welcome to Cocktail Mode. The
Welcome to
podcast
Cocktail
where we
Mode.
barely
Do
give a
half
shit.
the work for us. People are intelligent. They know how to Google stuff.
I mean, that's the thing, isn't it, right?
I found it with no effort. You'll find it with no effort.
If you're interested enough to see that, then open Google and you'll find it. You don't need us to link it in the description. It's a really good point, Dave. I backtrack entirely on that. Listener, get off your ass and do some work.